Hey Rafi, I was just thinking about our first jobs. Do you remember yours?
Oh yeah, that takes me back. My first job was at the local bookstore. I was the guy behind the counter recommending books to people.
That sounds like a dream job for someone who loves reading. How did you land it?
Well, I used to hang out there a lot, and the owner noticed my passion for books. One day, he offered me a part-time gig. It was perfect for a bookworm like me.
That's awesome. I can imagine you surrounded by shelves full of books. What about you? What was your first job?
Mine was a bit different. I worked at a small ice cream shop in the neighborhood. It was a summer job during high school.
Ice cream shop? That sounds like a sweet deal. Pun intended. How did you end up scooping ice cream?
Haha, nice one. Well, it was my cousin's shop, and they needed some extra help during the busy season. So, I got the job and spent my days serving up scoops of happiness.
That sounds like a fun first job. Did you have any memorable experiences?
Oh, plenty. I remember this one time when a customer dropped their ice cream cone just as I handed it to them. We both just stood there staring at the mess for a moment before bursting into laughter.
That must have been hilarious. Working with ice cream sounds like it had its challenges, but also some sweet moments.
Absolutely, it taught me a lot about customer service and handling unexpected situations. Plus, I got to experiment with creating my own ice cream concoctions during slow hours.
That's a cool perk. It's interesting how our first jobs shape us in unexpected ways. Do you think your time at the bookstore influenced your love for reading?
Definitely. It deepened my appreciation for books and introduced me to genres I might not have explored otherwise. What about you? Did your ice cream shop days leave a lasting impression?
Well, it certainly gave me a sweet tooth. But on a serious note, it taught me about responsibility and the importance of hard work. Plus, it was a fun way to connect with the community.
True, first jobs are like stepping stones. They may not be our dream careers, but they lay the foundation for what comes next.
Couldn't agree more. It's always fun reminiscing about those early days.
Hey Shamsir, I was reflecting on life, and it got me thinking about lessons we've had to learn the hard way. You ever had an experience like that?
Absolutely. Life has a way of throwing curveballs, doesn't it? One lesson that stands out for me is the importance of financial responsibility.
Interesting. What happened?
Well, back in my early 20s, I got my first credit card. At first, it felt like free money, and I didn't grasp the concept of interest rates. Long story short, I ended up accumulating quite a bit of debt.
That sounds tough. How did you eventually get out of that situation?
It took a lot of discipline and sacrifices. I had to create a strict budget, cut unnecessary expenses, and work extra hours to increase my income. It was a tough period, but it taught me the value of financial literacy.
I can see that. It's a common trap for many young adults. I've heard similar stories. What would you say is the key takeaway from that experience?
The main lesson was understanding the difference between wants and needs. I had to learn to distinguish between what I truly needed and what was just a fleeting desire. It changed the way I approach money and spending.
That's a valuable lesson. For me, it was about setting boundaries in relationships. I had this tendency to put others' needs above mine, to the point where I neglected my own well-being.
That sounds emotionally challenging. How did you realize the need for boundaries?
I went through a rough patch where I felt emotionally drained and taken for granted. It made me realize that I needed to establish clear boundaries to protect my own mental and emotional health.
I can relate to that in some ways. It's hard when you realize you've been neglecting your own needs. So, how did you go about setting those boundaries?
It involved a lot of self-reflection and communication. I had to express my feelings and needs more assertively, even if it meant stepping out of my comfort zone. It wasn't easy, but over time, it strengthened my relationships and, most importantly, my relationship with myself.
That's powerful. It's amazing how these tough lessons shape us into stronger individuals. Any other lessons that come to mind?
Well, there's another one related to career choices. I learned the hard way that pursuing a path solely for external validation or societal expectations can lead to dissatisfaction.
I think many people struggle with that. How did you come to that realization?
I was pursuing a career that seemed impressive on paper, but didn't align with my passions and values. It took a toll on my mental well-being, and I realized that true fulfillment comes when you're doing something you genuinely love.
It's a tough realization but an important one. Pursuing what you love often leads to a more satisfying and meaningful life.
Exactly. It's like they say, choose a job you love, and you will never have to work a day in your life. It might sound cliché, but there is truth to it.
Absolutely. These hard-learned lessons shape us into the people we are today. It's the journey of life, full of ups and downs.
Couldn't agree more, Shamsir. Here's to embracing the lessons, even if they come the hard way. You know, Nikhil, I was thinking the other day about self-improvement and the things I'd like to change about myself if I could. It's an interesting concept, isn't it?
Absolutely, Radha. We all have aspects of ourselves that we wish were different. What's on your mind?
Well, for one, I wish I could be more patient. I often find myself getting frustrated when things don't go as planned, and it affects both my work and personal life.
That's a common struggle. Patience is a virtue, they say. But hey, at least you recognize it and want to work on it. For me, I think I'd like to be more assertive. I tend to avoid conflict, even when it's necessary.
Interesting choice, Nikhil. Being assertive can be challenging, but it's crucial for effective communication. What makes you feel hesitant about expressing yourself assertively?
I think it's the fear of upsetting others or being seen as too confrontational. I need to find a balance between being considerate and standing up for myself.
I get that. It's tough finding that middle ground. You know, I also wish I could be more adventurous. I tend to stick to my comfort zone, and sometimes I feel like I'm missing out on exciting opportunities.
Ah, the comfort zone dilemma. It's cozy in there, but growth often happens outside of it. What kinds of adventures are you thinking about?
Traveling more, trying new activities, meeting different people, just stepping out of the routine. I think it would add some spice to life.
That sounds amazing, Radha. Maybe we can plan a trip together sometime. It might be a good way for both of us to challenge ourselves and grow.
I love that idea, Nikhil. Maybe it's time for both of us to embrace change and work on these aspects we wish were different.
Absolutely. It's all about self-discovery and continuous improvement. Let's make a pact to support each other in these changes.
Deal. It's refreshing to have open conversations like this. We can be each other's accountability partners on this journey.